The tragedy of the modern era is the widespread existence of the high IQ poor, a demographic paradox that completely baffles the sociological models of the soft men who believe that intelligence is a direct precursor to success. Yet the architect understands that academic intelligence is not merely insufficient for wealth creation. It is often an active impediment, a structural set of mental shackles that binds the genius to a life of mediocrity, while the college dropout ascends to the throne of the empire. You must deconstruct the lie you were told in the classroom, which is that the world is a meritocracy based on your ability to memorize facts, follow instructions, and regurgitate the correct answer on a standardized test. This is the operating system of a clerk, not a conqueror. The educational system was designed by the Prussian state in the 18th century not to produce sovereigns, inventors, or titans of industry, but to produce obedient soldiers and compliant factory workers who would not question authority, who would show up on time when the bell rang, and who would execute repetitive tasks without deviation. When you excel in this system, when you become the valedictorian, you are not proving your intelligence, you are proving your domestication. You are demonstrating to the system that you are a safe, reliable, and predictable cog that can be slotted into a corporate machine to generate value for someone else. The smart man remains poor because he has been lobotomized by his own education, trained to seek permission before acting, trained to fear the red ink of failure, and trained to believe that for every problem there is a pre-existing solution in the back of the textbook. The real world, the brutal and chaotic arena of the free market, has no textbook, no teacher, and no answer key. It rewards the man who can navigate ambiguity, who can tolerate the terror of the unknown, and who is willing to be wrong 1,000 times to be right once in a magnitude that matters. The fundamental error of the academic mind is the reliance on linear thinking in an exponential world. The A student is obsessed with the direct correlation between effort and reward. He studies for 10 hours to get an A. He works for 40 hours to get a paycheck. But wealth is never generated linearly. It is generated asymmetrically. The smart man sells his time because he can calculate his hourly rate. He feels safe knowing that if he works X hours, he gets Y dollars. This is the trap of the high-income employee, the doctor, the lawyer, the engineer, who is seduced by the comfort of a high salary into selling the only non-renewable resource he has, his life. The architect, often possessing a street intelligence that the academy sneers at, understands that you do not get rich by working. You get rich by owning. You get rich by building systems that work while you sleep, by detaching your income from your time, and by leveraging capital, code, and people to multiply your output. The academic mind struggles with this because it violates the fairness doctrine ingrained in school. It feels cheating to make $1 million in a day from a smart investment or a business exit when you didn't work hard for it in the traditional sense. The market does not care about your effort. It cares about your impact. A man who digs a hole with a spoon works harder than a man with an excavator, but the market rewards the excavator. The smart stay poor because they are digging with golden spoons, proud of their tool's sophistication, while the dumb rich man is simply operating the heavy machinery of leverage. Furthermore, academic intelligence breeds a crippling disease known as analysis paralysis. The high IQ individual is capable of simulating complex future scenarios in his mind with high fidelity. He can foresee every possible risk, every potential point of failure, every regulatory hurdle, and every economic downturn. While this seems like a superpower, it is actually a curse because it leads to inaction. The smart man can rationalize his way out of doing anything. He looks at a business opportunity and sees 10 reasons why it might fail. So he does nothing, remaining safely in his cubicle. The dumb man, the one who didn't read the case study, the one who doesn't know the statistics on startup failure rates, simply sees the opportunity and acts. He is too stupid to be afraid. He jumps off the cliff and builds the plane on the way down. By the time the smart man has finished his risk assessment and decided it's too risky, the dumb man has already crashed 3 times, learned the lessons, pivoted, and built a $10 million company. Intelligence often serves as a high-resolution mechanism for rationalizing cowardice. You use your big brain to construct elaborate, logical defenses for why you are staying in your comfort zone. You tell yourself you are prudent, strategic, or waiting for the right market conditions, but in reality, you are just scared. The market rewards speed and aggression over precision and perfection. The academic insists on 100% information before moving. The architect moves on 60% information and corrects course in real time. This is compounded by the validation trap. The academic elite are addicted addicted to external validation. From the age of 5, they have been trained to wag their tails for the gold star, the pat on the head, the diploma, the certification. They derive their self-worth from the approval of authority figures. The entrepreneur, the investor, the sovereign individual must operate in a vacuum of validation. When you start a business, the market does not give you grades. It gives you silence, rejection, or bankruptcy. There is no teacher to tell you are doing a good job. The smart man crumbles under this lack of structure. He needs the hierarchy. He needs the title. He would rather be a senior vice president making $200,000 a year and taking orders than a founder making zero for 2 years with the potential to make $20 million. He chooses the prestige of the title over the reality of the freedom. He confuses credentials with competence. He thinks that because he has a PhD in economics, he understands the economy, but he is outperformed by a guy who dropped out of high school to sell used cars because the car salesman understands human psychology, negotiation, and cash flow, the physics of the real world, while the PhD only understands the theoretical models of a world that does not exist. The map is not the territory, and the smart man is often staring so hard at the map that he walks off a cliff in the territory. Finally, the smart stay poor because they view sales as beneath them. The academic culture looks down on commerce as dirty, manipulative, and anti-intellectual. They believe that if they build a superior product, or write a superior code, or have a superior idea, the world will beat a path to their door. This is the field of dreams fallacy. The architect knows that the best product does not win. The best-known product wins. The ability to persuade, to negotiate, to sell a vision to investors, customers, and employees is the highest-paid skill in the world, and it is a skill that is almost entirely absent from the university curriculum. The smart man waits to be discovered. The architect kicks down the door and announces his arrival. The academic hides behind complexity, using jargon and big words to prove his intelligence, alienating the market. The rich man masters simplicity, communicating complex value in language a fifth grader can understand, because he knows that clarity equals conversion. You must kill the A student inside you. You must stop trying to be right and start trying to be rich. You must stop looking for the answer key and start writing your own rules. The intelligence that got you to the middle class is the exact thing keeping you out of the ruling class. The most dangerous place to be on the intelligence distribution curve is not the bottom, but the middle, the valley of death, known as the midwit zone, where you are smart enough to understand the complexity of the world, but not smart enough to transcend it, leaving you paralyzed by a high-resolution simulation of failure that prevents you from ever taking the action required to succeed. You must visualize the midwit curve meme because it is the most accurate sociological map of the modern economy. On the far left, you have the simpleton with an IQ of 80 who simply says, buy Bitcoin or start business, because he operates on primal intuition and lacks the cognitive capacity to doubt himself. On the far right, you have the sovereign master with an IQ of 140 who has analyzed all the data, realized the system is rigged, and also says buy Bitcoin or start business, because he has successfully simplified the complexity into a high conviction bet. In the middle, occupying the fat part of the bell curve between IQ 100 and 120, sits the tragic figure of the midwit, the college graduate, the middle manager, the well-informed citizen, who is screaming, "No, it's too risky. What about the regulation? What about the volatility? You haven't considered the macroeconomic factors." This man is trapped in the complexity fetish. He believes that a complex solution is always superior to a simple one because he spent 20 years in an educational system that rewarded him for memorizing nuances rather than for producing outcomes. He looks at the simpleton and mocks him for being reckless, not realizing that the simpleton is already rich while the midwit is still rewriting his business plan for the 10th time. The architect understands that in a chaotic environment, simple heuristics, rules of thumb, beat complex models every single time. The market rewards the man who can make a binary decision, yes or no, buy or sell, and stick to it, while it ruthlessly punishes the man who insists on waiting for perfect information that never arrives. You must kill the midwit inside you who is obsessed with appearing nuanced and sophisticated at dinner parties, and resurrect the savage who is willing to look stupid in the short term to be wealthy in the long term. This paralysis is compounded by the curse of specialization, a modern disease that has convinced you that the path to security is to learn more and more about less and less until you know absolutely everything about nothing. We have been indoctrinated with the idea of the division of labor, which is excellent for a factory owner who wants interchangeable parts, but disastrous for a human being who wants to remain free. As the science fiction author Robert Heinlein famously wrote, specialization is for insects. A worker bee is born to do one thing, collect pollen, and if the flowers die, die, the bee dies. The soft men pride themselves on being specialists. I'm a tax attorney, I'm a React developer, I'm a SEO consultant, never realizing that by defining themselves by a single function, they have turned themselves into a commodity that can be bought, sold, or automated. When you specialize, you become a tool in someone else's hand. You are the hammer, but the generalist is the carpenter who decides where to swing you. The modern economy is volatile. Industries rise and fall in cycles of 5 years. If your entire identity and income are tied to a specific software, a specific regulation, or a specific platform, you are fragile. You are one algorithm update or one legislative change away from obsolescence. The architect rejects this fragility by becoming a polymath or a generalist, a man who stacks disparate skills to create a monopoly of one. It is not enough to be in the top 1% of coders, which is incredibly hard. It is far more effective to be in the top 25% of coders, the top 25% of writers, and the top 25% of negotiators. When you combine these three merely good skills, you become the only person in the room who can write the code, explain it to the public, and sell it to the investor. This combination creates a moat that no specialist can cross. The academic mind sneers at the generalist, calling him a jack of all trades, master of none, leaving out the second half of the quote, but oftentimes better than a master of one. The specialist is trapped in the green lumber fallacy, a concept described by Nassim Taleb, where a trader made a fortune trading green lumber, thinking it was wood-painted green. He was an idiot about the product, but a genius about the market, while the lumber expert, who knew the biology of every tree, went bankrupt because he couldn't read the price action. The specialist knows the territory of the map. The generalist knows the physics of the terrain. To survive the coming decade of AI automation, which will decapitate the left-brain logical specialists first, accountants, coders, translators, you must cultivate range. You must be able to pivot from finance to psychology, from logistics to design, from strategy to execution. T-shaped individual, someone with deep expertise in one survival skill, the vertical bar, but broad proficiency in many others, the horizontal bar, is the only archetype that can navigate a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. You must stop trying to fit into a job description and start building a skill stack that makes you impossible to categorize and therefore impossible to replace. The system wants you to be a cog with a specific serial number. The architect is the fluid that flows between the gears, essential to the machine but not part of it. Furthermore, the midwit obsession with credentials blinds them to the reality of tacit knowledge. There are things that cannot be taught in a lecture hall but can only be learned through the painful feedback loop of trial and error. The smart poor man thinks he can learn to swim by reading a book on hydrodynamics. The rich dumb man jumps in the water and flails until he floats. The academic believes that knowledge precedes action. I must learn, then I will do. The entrepreneur knows that action precedes knowledge. I will do, and the failure will teach me. This is why you see so many C students hiring A students. The C student was busy running a side hustle, selling sneakers, or organizing parties, learning the tacit skills of supply, demand, and leverage, while the A student was busy optimizing for a test that has no correlation to reality. The smart man is terrified of looking incompetent, so he never starts as a beginner in a new field. He stays in his lane where he is the expert. The architect has Shoshin, beginner's mind. He is willing to be a clown, to fumble, to ask stupid questions, because he knows that the embarrassment of learning is the toll you pay for the mastery of the future. You must be willing to abandon the prestige of your current identity. If you are a celebrated lawyer who hates his life, you must be willing to become a novice entrepreneur who nobody respects. The midwit clings to the status of the past. The sovereign builds the equity of the future. Ultimately, the curse of the high IQ poor is the inability to suspend disbelief. They are so critical, so cynical, and so analytical that they deconstruct every opportunity until it looks like a scam. They see a young man making millions on the internet, and their ego forces them to label him a grifter or lucky, rather than admitting that he knows something they don't. This cynicism is a defense mechanism to protect their fragile worldview that hard work and degrees are the only legitimate path to wealth. The architect understands that the map has changed. The old rules, go to school, get a job, save 10%, are artifacts of a dead civilization. The new rules are written in code, in leverage, in attention, and in asymmetric bets. To win, you must be humble enough to learn from those who are winning, even if they are younger than you, less educated than you, and less sophisticated than you. You must trade your intelligence for agency. You must trade your complexity for clarity. You must trade your specialization for adaptability. The goal is not to be the smartest man in the graveyard. The goal is to be the freest man on the earth. The final and most lethal addiction that keeps the intelligent poor is the seduction of the monthly salary, which is not a payment for your services, but a bribe to make you forget your dreams and a sedative to numb the pain of your slowly eroding potential. You must recognize that a paycheck is the most expensive drug in the world because it costs you your autonomy, your upside, and your ultimate financial sovereignty. It creates a linear trap where your income is strictly tied to your time, a resource that is finite, decaying, and biologically capped. The soft men with high IQs are drawn to the salary like moths to a flame because they crave predictability and stability above all else, terrorized by the chaotic nature of the free market. But the architect understands that in a rigged monetary system where inflation is running at double digits and asset prices are skyrocketing, stability is actually slow-motion poverty. When you accept a salary, you are signing a contract that mathematically guarantees you will never be wealthy because you have accepted a capped upside in exchange for a perceived floor. Yet this floor is an illusion, a trapdoor that can drop open the moment a manager decides to restructure or an AI algorithm learns to do your job faster. You are trading the possibility of millions for the certainty of thousands. The smart poor man optimizes his life to avoid losing, which ensures he never wins. The architect optimizes his life to capture asymmetry, the holy grail of wealth creation, where the potential upside is exponentially higher than the potential downside. To escape the trap, you must master the art of the asymmetric bet. The employee mindset is defined by symmetric risk, or worse, negative skew. You show up every day, input, you get paid the same amount, output. But if you make a mistake, you get fired, catastrophic loss. Your best case is staying the same, your worst case is zero. This is a sucker's bet. The sovereign mindset seeks opportunities where the risk is known and limited, capped downside, but the reward is unknown and potentially infinite, uncapped upside. Consider the difference between a consultant and a founder. The consultant, high IQ poor, charges $500 an hour. If he works 10 hours, he makes $5,000. He cannot work 1,000 hours in a day. His math is broken. The founder, architect, spends 100 hours building a software product. He might make $0 if it fails, capped loss of time. But if it works, he can sell it to 1 million people while he sleeps, generating $10 million without working a single extra hour. This is the power of zero marginal cost replication. The smart man looks at the founder's 90% failure rate and sneers. See, it's too risky. He fails to understand the portfolio theory of life. If you make 10 asymmetric bets and 9 of them go to zero, but one of them goes to 100 times, you are not just profitable, you are wealthy for life. You do not need a high batting average. You do not need to be right most of the time. You only need to be right once in a magnitude that matters. The academic is obsessed with being right every time, passing the test. The entrepreneur is obsessed with the magnitude of the victory. This philosophy requires a fundamental rejection of the turkey illusion, a concept described by the philosopher Nassim Taleb. A turkey is fed by the farmer every single day for 1,000 days. To the turkey's statistical analysis, the farmer is a benevolent provider, and the trend line of his life shows increasing food and safety with low volatility. The turkey feels safe. His confidence level is at an all-time high on day 1,000. Then comes day 1,001, Thanksgiving. The farmer snaps his neck. The smart employee is the turkey. He mistakes the absence of volatility, a steady paycheck, for the absence of risk. He thinks he is safe because the check hits his account every 2 weeks, but he is accumulating silent risk, the risk of obsolescence, the risk of inflation destroying his purchasing power, the risk of a single decision maker ending his livelihood. The architect embraces volatility to avoid the blow-up. He prefers the jagged, unpredictable income of the market, making $0 one month, $50,000 the next, because this volatility keeps him sharp, adaptable, and awake. He is constantly testing the market, adjusting his product, and learning the truth. He is not a turkey waiting for the axe. He is a wolf hunting in the forest. The forest is scary. The forest is uncertain. But the wolf never faces a Thanksgiving. The transition from rent seeker, getting paid for your position, to value creator, getting paid for your creation, requires you to divorce your ego from your income. The high IQ poor are status sensitive. They would rather earn $100,000 as a director of strategy than $300,000 as a plumbing contractor or an affiliate marketer because the latter lacks prestige. They are paying a vanity tax. The architect pays no such tax. He follows the liquidity. He understands that money is neutral and that a dollar earned from selling a digital course or cleaning a pool buys the same freedom as a dollar earned from a corner office. Only the former comes with ownership and the latter comes with a leash. You must be willing willing to kill the salary psychologically before you kill it financially. You must stop viewing the weekend as a time to escape your life and start viewing it as a time to build your exit strategy. You must use your salary not to buy consumer goods that signal success, but to buy the call options on your future, investing in your own business, buying Bitcoin, building a personal brand, acquiring equity. Every dollar you save is a bullet in the magazine of your freedom. The smart man consumes his salary to numb the pain of his servitude. The architect uses his salary to buy the bolt cutters for his chains. Ultimately, the reason the smart stay poor is that they believe the world is rational, fair, and ordered. They believe that if they follow the rules, they will be rewarded. This is the just world hypothesis, and it is a lie. The world is chaotic, unfair, and dominated by power laws. The top 1% of outcomes capture 99% of the rewards. The average is a statistical graveyard. By trying to be a well-rounded, risk-averse, compliant citizen, you are positioning yourself in the middle of the herd, exactly where the predators feed. To win, you must become an outlier. You must take risks that look crazy to your peers, but are calculated rationalities to you. You must be willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time. You must understand that wealth is not a function of how hard you row the boat, but of which boat you are in. The salaryman is rowing a canoe upstream against a waterfall. The investor is trimming the sails on a yacht, catching the trade winds. No matter how high your IQ, you cannot outrow the current of a broken economic system. You must step out of the river, climb the mountain, and build a dam. You must stop being the smartest person in the room and start being the one who owns the building. This is the only IQ test that matters.